Today is September the 18th, 2004. I'm Charlie Henson. I'm at the 12th Armored Division Museum. I'm with Marie Farrand, and we're going to be talking about the 12th Armored Division and her husband, who was a participant. Thank you for talking with us today, Marie. First of all, I'd like for you to tell me about your parents and your family of origin.
I was born in Marathon City, Wisconsin, and my parents were both German, so I'm German. And I lived there until I was probably 8 years old.
Okay. What were their names? Tell me their names.
Rupplinger.
Okay.
Rupplinger, German. And my mother came from Germany, and my father was born in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, in that area, Wisconsin. And then we moved to Tomahawk, Wisconsin. They were farmers.
Okay.
We moved to Tomahawk, Wisconsin, and that was during the Depression, and he worked. They were farmers. My parents were always farmers. And then we worked on the farm, helped with the farming.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 2 brothers and 5 sisters, and we're all living. I was the 3rd oldest. So,
Where did you go to high school?
I did not graduate from high school.
Okay.
Okay.
So what was your schooling? Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Well, first of all, in Marathon City, Wisconsin, then in Tomahawk, Wisconsin.
Okay. So where did you meet your husband, and what is his name?
My husband's name is Melroy Farrand, and I met him in our city. I met him in the hospital where I worked.
When did you start working in the hospital?
When I was, I think, 15 years old.
What were your duties there in the hospital?
I was assistant dietitian. I learned that.
And you met him. What was he working there, or
He was a patient.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me how you met and your dating years time.
We got married in October 15th, 42, and we had a honeymoon of 2 weeks. And after that, he went to Camp Barkley in Texas.
So you knew before you married that he was headed off to war?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. And how long did y'all date?
Since I was 16.
Oh, okay. Okay. And how old were you when you married?
19.
19. Okay. Tell me what it was like sending your new husband off to Camp Barkley, Texas.
Well, it wasn't too easy, but then I had a job and I stayed there and worked until the spring. Then I went to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and he was at Campbell, Kentucky.
Where did you live when you went there, and did you work?
No, we couldn't find a job because there were too many of us.
Okay.
But I met my friend Renee Boland there, and we, yeah, you just met her, and she and I became good friends because our husbands were good friends. And of course the men were out on bivouac, or they didn't get to town that often, so we were on our own most of the time.
So how did you spend your time?
We looked for places to sleep, mostly, because it was very difficult to find a place to stay, and we would shop around most of the day, and we would get overnight sleeping homes or places. And then the next morning the people seemed, they didn't want you, just for overnight, so then we had to go out. And they just would rent for one night because I think they got more rent that way. And then we would have to go out and look for another place.
How did your husband know how to find you?
I thought of that this morning. And then I thought, well, how did we ever let those, I was going to ask Renee Boland that, how did we tell them where to find us? But they wouldn't come home every weekend, but some weekends, they would get a ride in on the bus. And of course, we found these places to sleep. You know, we were always somewhere else. And then, of course, we had to find our meals uptown. And when we went uptown, there were there weren't too many places to eat. That we had to walk always, and so we would find places to eat, not too much food because we didn't have that much money. And of course, we found places to sleep. Some were not very nice, but they would rent you whatever room they had. Sometimes we would go up in an attic, sleep in an attic on a mattress.
So was that just because there were just so many people?
Yeah.
And it just...
There were no places. There weren't any places for us in Camp Campbell. That's why we went to Hopkinsville. And then finally we found an old house at the end of the town, and was a 3-room house and a kitchen. And we rented this house, and then 3 couples shared the rent. And then the rent, there was a ceiling on rent at that time. And the landlord said, well, I will sign the receipt for the ceiling, but you have to pay me more if you want this house. So that's what we had to do.
Do you remember how much it was?
No.
Don't have any idea. Yeah.
See, I should have, if I'd have known of this, I would have did a little research.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
So
Yeah.
we didn't, it was just a little white house with a front porch. And so the 3 of us, us couples, lived in this house. And it was hot and humid. I know I had a dress hanging in the closet. It was just wet when you put it on. No air or anything. And then when the men did come home, they would bring their laundry, and we had to wash that by hand and try to get it dry. So, and then after it got quite hot, I went home because I was pregnant. And then when I went home, I continued working until I had our first baby. And then
What was your, a girl or a boy?
girl.
A girl. Okay.
Yeah, she's 61 now. Okay. So I went back to work. Well, I had the baby, and then I went to my parents' home for a few months. And then they lived on a farm. And after a few months, I was able to buy a small, very small 4-room house and a path. You know what that is? Okay. And some people gave me the $800 to buy the house with. And so then I repaid them $12 or something a month. And our allotment, I think, was below $60 a month.
Wow. So you stayed at home this whole time. Did you ever come to Abilene?
No.
You stayed home?
Yeah, I stayed home. And then I stayed home and raised my daughter and tried to make ends meet. Of course, there was no washing machine or electric stove or no plumbing. But it was fine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people did the same thing.
Were rations in place at that time?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that and how it worked and what you remember about rations.
Well, my husband had a car and he left it for me, but I didn't know how to drive, so somebody taught me how to drive. And of course, the gas was rationed. You could only go to do your groceries maybe once or twice a week, which was not too far from town. And coffee and sugar and fuel was rationed. And I had just a small house, and I cooked with wood. And I had the baby, in the house. And I went to the rationing board and asked for fuel coupons. And he says, well, you aren't entitled to fuel coupons. So I just got a really small wood stove they called them an airtight stove. They said they weren't too safe. But anyway, that I got that, and my father brought wood, and I heated with the wood. I heated the house with the wood.
Was it, so that was in the kitchen?
No, this was in the living room.
Oh,
I had
in the living room.
I had a wood stove to cook.
Okay. Well, how did you work during this time, or you stayed home?
I stayed home.
Okay. Okay.
Because you couldn't afford babysitters or, you know.
What kind of relationships did you have in your town that helped you get through these times? And were there other women whose husbands were gone?
Well, I was sort of by myself.
How did you do that? How did you take care of things and take care of care of everything?
Well, you learned how to do it, and I just did what had to be done.
How often were you able to hear from your husband during this time?
Probably at least more than a week or 10 days.
How did you find out that they were leaving and going to be headed to Europe?
Oh, I don't even know.
So how long was it from the time you saw him last, when you put him on the train, and when you saw him again?
Let me see. They left in when he returned after the war in about 46 or 47.
So how long you never got to see him? He was never. Was he ever on a leave or anything?
Yeah, he was on leave once.
Once in all that time.
And then he was overseas, and then he stayed with the occupational forces. So he was gone from the time my daughter was born till she was 5 years old.
You were a brave lady. You were a brave lady. How did he communicate? Did you ever know where he was at or what he was doing, or was it just sort of, I love you, and what kind of letters could he write you?
Well, sometimes they were censored, you know, but they'd say what they were doing and what they'd have to eat, or, you know, nothing pertaining to the military or fighting or that. And of course, then we didn't have TV, so we didn't really know what was going on.
Did radio keep you, well, though they weren't talking about the 12th Armored Division?
No, we didn't have much news, you know.
So how did you, from year to year, I guess I just don't have, I can't even fathom what you went through. Can you help us understand how you went emotionally? Was it just the way it was in those days?
I mean, everybody, you know, had to do this. And you just had to do these things every day and just continued and hoped for the best.
When did you find out that your husband was coming back?
I think his father was very ill and he was supposed to come then, but then something changed and he wasn't able to come home. But then when he, you know, was in the occupational force, he stayed there for quite a few years.
Oh.
After the war was over.
How long after the war? Okay. So what year did he come back?
We see the war was over in 44 or 45.
45.
And then 5 years after that.
And he never came back from that?
No. Well, I mean, he came back, but not during that time.
Yeah. So when he came back, was he still in the Army? Or did they...
He was discharged then.
He was discharged.
Yeah.
Tell me about the homecoming. Tell me about how you found out he was coming and that.
Oh, let me see. I know we met them at the train when they came home. And then, of course, my daughter was 5 years old then at that time. Of course, she didn't know him, but
Had you had pictures or anything, or was it strange for her to have a new person in the house? How did she adjust to all that?
well, she was in kindergarten at the time, and I guess we just took it as it came every day.
How did he change?
Well, at that time, there were no programs for them, you know, in our town or anything, but they just were at odds with everything, you know, and he didn't have a job for quite a while until his money was gone that he had got, you know, received for severance pay. But he had friends that he would hunt and fish with, and they did a lot of drinking at that time. And then after a while we had a son. Well, then after that, then he quit drinking and he got a job.
Yeah.
So,
So those were hard times after the war, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah. Do you think a lot of it had to do with the experiences he had?
well, I certainly think so.
Yeah,
How can you not?
yeah. Did he ever talk to you much about?
No,
No.
no.
When did y'all start coming to the association meetings?
I don't know what year it was, but the first one was in Minneapolis.
Okay. Okay. Did that seem to help him to kind of work through some of those war issues?
Oh, I think so, because he liked to see his friends, you know, from there in
Was he? Oh, he was in the 493rd. What was his position in the 493rd?
he was in the field artillery, and he was the driver of the tank.
Okay. So he was in pretty. He was up front doing all that.
Yeah.
Doing all that.
He went in as a private, and he came out as a first lieutenant.
Okay.
He got a field commission.
Okay. So did he was a driver of a tank the whole time?
Yes.
So he lived in a very small world in a very small place.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Does he have any men that through the years were in his platoon or in his unit that he has stayed in contact
Yes.
with through here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Renee Boland's husband is one.
Oh, uh-huh.
But then he was a prisoner of war,
Yeah.
too.
What did you learn about yourself during this experience?
Oh, I had to take care of myself and do the best I could with what I had. You know, our allotment wasn't that much. And just buy what you could afford, because we didn't have credit cards or money to pay for things, you know.
Did you grow a garden or anything?
Yes, I had a
Yeah.
garden.
Tell me about your garden. Was it called the Liberty Garden or what?
No,
Did they have a
I
garden?
just had a garden in the backyard that I could take care of.
So did you can?
Yes,
and
yes,
all
I
that?
can, whatever I could.
Did you? I guess you learned that growing up.
Pardon?
The canning. Did you learn that just growing
Yes,
up?
yes.
Was it the steam pressure cookers or
Oh,
was
no,
it?
no, no,
Okay,
no.
what? How did you can?
Hot water bath, you know, hot water. Put it in hot water and on the stove and just cooked it.
Was it in the jars at that point, or was
Yes,
it in the?
yes.
Hey, did you ever can the meat?
Oh, I never canned meat at that time till later on when I got the pressure cooker, and then I canned meat and fish.
Oh, okay. But that got you through, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so you had a son and a daughter. What did your husband? What did he do after the war? It took him a while to get a job. What did
Yeah.
he do?
He went to work. First, he went to work for the railroad. Then he worked for the paper mill.
Okay. Okay. And did he do that the rest of his working
Yes,
years? Okay.
yes.
So what paper mill was that?
It was Owens, Illinois.
Okay. So did he cut the trees or process the trees or?
It was a mill that they did something with the chemicals to make the paper.
Oh.
And he was in this room that had all the machines that told him how much to put into different things, you know, to process the paper.
Yeah. So is he here with you now, or has he passed away?
He's passed away 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Oh. So you've been by yourself quite a while,
Mhm.
yeah. You're a woman with very much strength and courage. Yeah. Where's your son? I'm sorry. That's okay. I'm sorry. That's okay. You know what? I have some big old bruiser soldiers that have cried on me, and they go, "Can't believe I'm crying." Even Captain Hilton cried on me.
My son is 56, and he's in South America.
Oh, okay. And your daughter lives here in the States?
My daughter lives in Florida.
Oh, okay.
She used to live in Wisconsin also, but then they decided to move to Florida.
Okay. Okay. So you're in Wisconsin. Do you have family still there?
Yes, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay. 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 If someone were to get a hold of this tape in 50 years, and you wanted to leave a message or something you've learned or something that you would like for somebody else to know, what would you say to them?
Oh, I would just say, do whatever you can for everyone. And mostly, just pray every day.
Has your faith gotten you through life?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Was your faith very important in when your husband was in the war?
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So, well, that's a blessing to have, and we appreciate that sacrifice that you had. You sacrificed too. We talk about our soldiers sacrificing, but you sacrificed a lot of
Well,
years.
it's nothing compared to what they did.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because they had it very hard.
Yeah.
We at least had a home and enough food to eat.
And you came home and you loved him through all the hard times and
Uh-huh.
stuff. So, well, I appreciate you talking. Is there anything I've left out? Anything on those notes that I have? They're right down there.
Okay.
Check it real quick and see if there's things that I haven't asked you about.
I guess we did real well.
Did we do real well? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate
welcome.
your time and coming.
Well, I appreciate you doing this too.
Yeah. And Rennie coming in and talking to us. How great to have 2 friends back to back.
Tilly Schumacher, the other lady, she's a very good friend.
Oh, is she?
We keep in touch.
Oh, how wonderful. So all of you can come.
I mean, all these people were very close, you know, still are. And the men were too.
Yeah. 493rd was a very close group of men, yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Well, I thank you too.
Okay, wait. Oh.